My name's Chris Beatty, and I have a pen pal named Haywood Fudd. Since September 2024, the two of us have been exchanging letters to one another about everything and yet nothing at all. It took us over a year and a half and 50 exchanges until we finally met in person. And when that happened, I decided it was time to share these ramblings with the world. This is Letters to Haywood Fudd. This story is about going above and beyond. I didn't have time to get a reply letter to Fudd before Book Report 2 showed up in my mailbox. He was prompt in delivering his self-assigned homework and got the project back to me before I had a chance to send him a letter about whatever dumb thing I had noticed recently. When we read something that resonates, we take the author's experiences and lay them on top of our own. Most people don't write because they think they don't have anything unique to offer. But focusing on the differences between our life and those around us is a mistake. We read to feel like we have something in common. Good writing reminds us of those things in common. Sure, a memoir about someone getting trapped in a boulder and cutting off his own arm with a pocket knife is interesting. But if that's the whole story, if all it is a guy who chops off his own arm, it'll only be interesting. It'll be like watching one of those Saw movies and thinking, holy fuck, that would suck. And then we would intentionally force ourselves not to think about that story anymore. We wouldn't have a reason to. We wouldn't want to. We remember the familiar because it is the familiar that makes us feel less alone. It is the familiar that makes us feel seen. It is the familiar that makes sense of our world. We don't want to be the only guy who sees things the way we do. We want someone who gets us. We want someone who sees the same things even when they look different. So when Haywood Fudd responded with his second book report, and it contained a dozen anecdotes about things he thought of while reading my essays, things that he felt we had in common, things that we could relate to, things that I reminded him of, well, I felt less alone. I knew I had something in common with someone, even if those things were absurd. Even if it was a mysterious pen pal who I had never met in person. But we had met on the page.
Book Report 2, Things I've Been Thinking About. Probably like your sister, Denise, I grew up during the 1970s. A memory. I, too, was a member of the Boy Scouts, which during the 1970s was analogous to giving a teenage kid sticks of dynamite and a book of matches. It was divine intervention that one of us wasn't killed or disfigured. None of the juvenile lunatics that I was scouts with achieved any merit badges because there wasn't any marriage badge for them trying to set the woods on fire, throwing sparks at each other and running amok like teenage savages in Lord of the Flies. Memory. My buddies and I crowded around the television when Evel Knievel was leaping his Harley over the buses, cars, and fountains. We prayed Evel would suffer a fantastic crash. When the god of crashes granted our wish, we shouted with glee as Evel tumbled like a rag doll down the landing ramp. Excited at Evel's cool crash, we would race outside and build ramps out of purloined plywood. We then leaped our banana seat bicycles over this and that. In one dazzling crash, I broke 7 fingers that also turned my bike into a heap of scrap. So Evel, I own an Evel Knievel pinball machine. Fact. My hearing is wretched because during the late 1970s, I fired at least 100,000 rounds of various calibers without wearing ear protection. None of my buddies wore hearing protection either because there wasn't any high quality hearing protection to be had, like what I now wear. And even if there was, we wouldn't have wasted money on hearing protection when we could have used the money to buy more ammo. My ears rang and rang due to glorious gunfire and loud rock music. Some musings about where I am in your book. Never taken a polar plunge, but I did leap off a bridge into a spring-fed river in March 1st, 1981. Not smart at all. Haven't spent much time in Minnesota, though Northfield is on my list. Saw Blue Oyster Cult 3 times. Own a t-shirt with the word spam on the front of it. I own spam socks, too. Gay joints are still funny.
Jokes.
One of my all-time favorite books is Breakfast of Champions. Kurt Vonnegut gave birth to it. Costco is my favorite choice for buying hooch. Spend a lot of time and money on fireworks stands. I'm setting up 1 million firecrackers this year. Last year I set off 100,000. Go big or go home. When our kids were small, my wife and I purchased a trampoline for them. They survived. I was terrified the entire time. God bless you and your wife for adopting. Haywood.
Letters to Haywood Fudd is written by Chris Beatty and Haywood Fudd. I played myself, and Uncle Bob Copperstone played the voice of Haywood Fudd. Music is Speak Loud Advocate. If you want more of our letters but don't want to wait for the podcast to come out, I have a whole bunch of them available for download on my website, csbd.com/HaywoodFudd. Also, I wrote a book, and I feel obligated to tell you that. I feel obligated to tell everyone that. Everything is recorded at the greatest city on earth, Omaha, Nebraska.